The sister-in-law turned pale and shouted, "Don't drink," when she saw the glass in her brother's hand. The words hit the air so sharply that even the quiet clink of silverware stopped mid-motion. Ethan Caldwell froze, the crystal glass hovering inches from his lips. His eyes flicked toward his sister, Victoria Caldwell, whose face had drained of all color. The room fell into a silence that didn't feel normal. It felt heavy. It felt wrong. Naomi Parker sat beside Ethan, her fingers tightening slightly around her napkin as she studied Victoria's expression. Victoria wasn't just surprised. She was terrified. "What are you doing?" Ethan asked slowly, lowering the glass but not setting it down. Victoria took a step forward, her voice trembling despite her attempt to steady it. "I said don't drink that." Her gaze locked onto the glass, as if it were something alive. Something dangerous. Naomi felt a strange chill crawl up her spine. This wasn't how family dinners at the Caldwell estate usually went. They were controlled, polished, predictable. Everything tonight had followed that pattern until this exact moment. The long mahogany table was set perfectly. The candles flickered softly. The expensive wine had been poured with care. Nothing had been out of place. Until Victoria screamed. "Victoria, you're making a scene," their mother, Eleanor Caldwell, said sharply from the head of the table. Her tone carried authority, but there was something underneath it. Something strained. "I don't care," Victoria replied, her voice cracking now. "Ethan, put it down." Ethan's jaw tightened. "You're not making any sense." But he still didn't drink. Naomi noticed that. Despite his irritation, despite his confusion, something in Victoria's voice had reached him. Slowly, he placed the glass back on the table. The sound echoed louder than it should have. "Explain yourself," Eleanor demanded. Victoria's eyes darted around the table. Her father, Richard Caldwell, sat quietly, his expression unreadable. Naomi caught the faintest shift in his posture. A subtle tension. Victoria swallowed hard. "That wine, it's not safe." The sentence landed like a crack through glass. Naomi felt her heartbeat quicken. "What does that mean?" Ethan asked, his voice lower now.
Victoria hesitated.
For a moment, it looked like she might back down, like she might retreat into silence. But then she shook her head. "I switched the bottles earlier." Eleanor's eyes narrowed instantly. "You what?" Victoria stepped closer to the table. "I found something in the original bottle." Naomi's stomach tightened. "What kind of something?" Ethan pressed. Victoria's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "A residue." The word lingered. Heavy. Unsettling. A chemical smell that didn't belong. Silence followed again. But this time it felt darker. Naomi glanced at the glass Ethan had almost drunk from. Her mind raced. This wasn't just a family argument anymore. This was something else. "Are you accusing someone of poisoning me?" Ethan asked, his voice steady but sharp. Victoria didn't answer immediately. That hesitation said everything. Naomi felt it in her chest. Felt the shift in the room. The carefully constructed image of this family was cracking. "I'm saying you shouldn't drink anything from that bottle," Victoria said finally. Eleanor let out a cold, controlled breath. "This is ridiculous." But her fingers were gripping her glass too tightly. Naomi noticed that. She noticed everything now. The way Richard avoided eye contact. The way the servants had quietly stepped back, as if sensing something was wrong. The way Ethan's expression had changed. He wasn't just annoyed anymore. He was calculating. "Where's the original bottle?" he asked. Victoria pointed toward the sideboard. "I left it there." Ethan stood up slowly. Every movement deliberate. Naomi watched him cross the room, her pulse pounding in her ears. He picked up the bottle, examined it. Then he brought it closer to his nose. A brief pause. His expression shifted. Subtly, but unmistakably. Naomi felt her breath catch. He smelled it. He noticed something. "Ethan?" Naomi whispered. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he set the bottle down carefully. Too carefully. And that's when Naomi knew. Victoria wasn't imagining things. "There's something off," Ethan admitted quietly. The room seemed to shrink around them. Eleanor stood up abruptly. This is absurd. But her voice lacked its usual strength. This could be a mistake, Richard added quickly. Too quickly. Naomi turned her head toward him. And for the first time, she saw something she hadn't noticed before. Fear. Real fear. Not concern. Not confusion. Fear. Her thoughts began to align in a way that made her uneasy. Why would he be afraid? Unless he already knew. The realization hit her like a sudden drop. Victoria stepped forward again. I didn't want to say anything yet, she said. But I had the residue tested this afternoon. Ethan's eyes snapped toward her. You what? Victoria held his gaze. It came back as a toxic compound. Naomi's hand instinctively reached for Ethan's arm. Her grip tightened. The word echoed in her mind. Toxic. Not suspicious. Not questionable. Toxic. This is insane. Eleanor snapped, but her voice was starting to crack. Who would do something like this? Ethan asked. The question hung in the air. No one answered. No one moved. Naomi felt it again. That shift. That invisible line being crossed. Victoria looked around the table. At each face. Lingering for a second longer on one. Naomi followed her gaze. It landed on Richard Caldwell. And in that moment, everything changed. Richard's expression faltered. Just for a second. But it was enough. Enough for Ethan to notice. Enough for Naomi to understand.
Dad.
Ethan said slowly. The word felt heavy. Richard opened his mouth, then closed it again. I can explain, he said finally. But his voice didn't sound convincing. Not even to himself. Naomi's heart pounded harder. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was truth pushing its way to the surface. Victoria's hands were shaking now. I didn't want to believe it either, she whispered. But the bottle came from your study. Silence exploded across the room. Eleanor turned sharply toward Richard. What is she talking about? Richard ran a hand through his hair. A gesture that felt out of place. Uncontrolled. Desperate. It's not what you think, he said. But no one believed that anymore. Naomi felt a cold clarity settle inside her. This family wasn't what she thought it was. This dinner wasn't just a gathering. It was something else entirely. Something darker. Ethan stepped closer to his father. His voice dropped to something dangerous. Then tell me what it is. Richard hesitated. And in that hesitation, the truth revealed itself. But what came next was something no one expected. Victoria stepped between them, her voice shaking but firm. He wasn't trying to poison you. Ethan frowned. What? Victoria's eyes filled with tears. He was trying to poison Naomi. The world seemed to stop. Naomi felt her breath leave her body. Everything inside her went still. Ethan turned sharply toward her. What is she saying? Naomi couldn't answer. Her mind was racing too fast. Too many pieces falling into place all at once. Richard closed his eyes. And that was all the confirmation they needed. The room shattered into chaos. Eleanor's voice rose in disbelief. Ethan's anger erupted. But Naomi heard none of it clearly. Because one thought drowned out everything else. She had been the target all along. And as she slowly looked back at the glass on the table, one chilling realization settled deep in her chest. If Victoria hadn't spoken up in that exact moment, everything would have ended very differently.